Compare cheap car insurance quotes that really do cut the mustard at mustard.co.uk. Details online, authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard Podcast with Taggart's Volvo. The Volvo new car sale event ends soon. Purchase a mild hybrid Volvo from the XC range and get your first 3 services for only $399. Taggart's, part of the Lookers family. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard. Tonight, we're at the RB Arena for Matchday 3. RB Leipzig versus Celtic. The Old Firm in Europe's big league. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Good evening and welcome to Clyde One Super Scoreboard on another big night of Champions League action. Celtic are underway in Leipzig, looking to overcome defensive injuries and get some more points on the board. It's level at the moment. Rangers had a tough night at Anfield, losing 2-0 to Liverpool, and we've even got midweek domestic action for you. Kilmarnock and St Johnstone's turn tonight after a huge win for Motherwell in Dingwall. I'm Gordon Duncan, and joining me tonight you've got Stephen McGowan and Marvin Bartley. You two are spoiled rotten. Not only have you got Champions League football to watch, you've got a big game to react to last night as well. This will fly in.
Yeah, what a fantastic week. Champions League, we spoke about it, having 2 of the top teams in the Champions League was always going to make good reading and obviously good radio. We watched the game yesterday and now watching Celtic as well. Obviously 0-0 after 17 minutes, but it's been a good game, quite end to end.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, only notable, in fact, hold on. Celtic may well be about to fall behind, and indeed they have. It's
I think he's offside.
Wonderful chipped finish from Christopher Nkunku. You think that's going to be brought back?
Yeah.
We'll have a look. I was going to say Celtic had been doing fine. It'd been end to end. Leipzig had looked dangerous. Celtic had got into the box a few times. The Leipzig keeper's been stretchered off as he made a mess of a clearance earlier on, seemed to hurt his knee. But I think that one is going to stand.
Yeah, it looks like he's onside.
Yeah, it looks like Juranovic maybe just playing him on. What about the finish?
A wonderful finish.
Well, how's that for timing? It changes things. Celtic are 1-0 down in Leipzig.
Well,
Stephen.
they had ridden their luck in early moments, a couple of close things. Listen, they have a untried, untested central defence who've been thrown together. And I think it was a long night for Rangers and Liverpool, and it looks like it's now going to be a long night for Celtic and Leipzig.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I'm still thinking that might be offside, Gordon. If they call that, I should go into maybe officiating.
Yeah. Well, you give referees a hard enough time at the weekends, so it would only be fair that you give it a go.
There is a goal check. There is a goal check,
as there would always be. It's going to be close. I've given up trying to guess, which we'll sort of just sit back and wait and see.
There you go. I'm a different. Listen.
By the way,
has he called it off?
Yeah.
Look at the eyesight on this
I didn't even need VAR.
You didn't?
I didn't. I'm going to go into the SFA, speak to a few of the refs and stuff and say, listen, I can help if you need to.
They should be calling it.
Exactly.
You are putting my lottery numbers on Saturday.
Outstanding. Celtic are no longer behind in Leipzig, by the way, for anyone who's just joining us. This is live radio for you.
Yeah, exactly. What a fantastic defensive line that was, Gordon?
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, 0141 951 1025. That's the number for you to join in. Celtic fans, it's going to be one of those nights. So if you want to talk to us as the game goes on, please do. There'll be a good opportunity, I guess, for you at half time, and then certainly after the game we'll still be here for a bit to get all your post-match thoughts. Rangers fans, however, you've had the night to sleep on it. You've read all the comments in the newspapers and on social media, and you've probably watched some of the highlights back. How do you feel about last night? Was it inevitable? Do you shrug your shoulders and say you were beaten by the better team, or are you still frustrated at things that your team could and should have done better? Let us know. I know lots of you were down there. Maybe you're back and you can get in touch, and if you watched it on TV, please get in touch as well. 0141 951 1025. Speaking of people that were down there, you were one of them.
I was indeed.
What was
just
the
back this afternoon.
Account like?
Well, I think the kind of feeling after it is that in the pre-match press conference, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst spoke about Rangers showing belief, having belief in themselves and displaying it. I don't know if that happened. There was a lack of conviction. I accept, well, speaking off air, Marvin was saying, look, what do you expect when you go to Anfield? I think Rangers fans just wanted to see their team have a bit of a go. You wanted to see guys like Ryan Kent, Malik Tillman show a bit of something, particularly for Kent, because Kent the incentive for him was immense. He's in last year of his contract. strutting his stuff at Anfield, the club where he used to play. And I think there was just a bit of a feeling of, yeah, okay, didn't get thrashed, but it was really just Ajax with Alan McGregor in goals for me.
What do you make of that, Rangers fans? Does that match your assessment? How do you feel it went on the night? 01419511025. These nights are interesting challenge for us because we'll look back on that all the while keeping an eye on the Celtic game, which is now 20 minutes in. It's still goalless. Marvin, the team that Ange Postecoglou's picked tonight, it was one that would have had other defenders in it if they were fit, let's be honest. Carl Starfelt and Carter Vickers both still unfit, which was a huge blow for Celtic, but Jens and Stephen Welsh staying in the team, so the usual fullbacks and Taylor and Juranovic, kind of predictable midfield, McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, mostly predictable attack as well, you'd have to say, with Kyogo and Jota, and Maeda gets the nod as well. Remember, Lila Bada left home due to religious reasons, and those other injuries that we suggested. Anything that surprised you there?
No. As you said, I think when you look at that team, you probably look at the two centre halves. You look at kind of the tough time that they had against St Mirren. Obviously, dealing with a different kind of striker today, a different kind of attacking force. But it's a big game for both of them. Welsh is rated very highly, and rightly so. I think he would have learnt a lot on the back end of the St Mirren result, and he started quite comfortably in this game. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but I think as two centre halves, their pairing is going to be so important today because they could become under duress for sure. Yeah,
all the talk from Celtic fans over the last couple of nights, Stephen, was there was an air of fearing the worst about it. With no disrespect to Moritz Jens and Stephen Welsh, fans seem to feel that one of them is a downgrade, but to have both at the same time does make life difficult.
Well, you look at it, Celtic were absolutely flying. They were winning games with relative ease, and then Cameron Carter-Vickers without the team, and it seemed to just kind of damage them, in terms of their morale and the performances. They lost to St Mirren when possibly Ange Postecoglou made changes he didn't have to make. They then go and they weren't particularly convincing against Motherwell, I wouldn't say, by their standards. For me, Carter-Vickers has been the best defender in Scotland so far this season. It's no surprise if you take him out, they're going to be weakened. Carl Starfelt as well. And in the Champions League, you're already asking to step up a huge level. And you look at it with Rangers having James Sands in there, a midfielder playing central defence. If you take your best central defenders out of the team, you're going to suffer, you're going to struggle. And as I say, this could be a long night for Celtic.
And there we are. We're just seeing replays of the RB Leipzig goal that was ruled out, and it was the
left arm?
Yeah, or the kneecap or something.
Spotted it early.
Yeah, listen. 01419511025. Celtic fans, what are you thinking about what you're seeing? Rangers fans, what did you make of what you witnessed last night? Must be some happy Motherwell fans out there. Come on, you don't get the chance to celebrate a 5-0 victory too often, so we can hear from you as well. And of course, Hearts Fiorentina tomorrow. There is a lot to get through. Let's kick it off with John, who's a Rangers fan. Another let off for Celtic, header 10 yards out, drifts wide. John, as a Rangers fan, how do you look back on it last night?
Well, as I said there to your colleague, I was at the game last night, and it was great atmosphere, but Rangers, far too much respect. From what I watched, Connor Goldston and McGregor were the only two that I would give pass marks to. The rest, absolutely non-existent.
Oh, what a save from the RB Leipzig substitute keeper. Celtic could well have been in front. Great run by Maeda, crossed in. Kyogo's header, very close, but over the bar. Good stuff from Celtic, still goalless. John, you almost know you can predict what I'm going to come back at you with. Other people say Liverpool, what do you expect? Different league, more money, 2-0, get on with it. Why does none of that make sense to you?
Because Liverpool were a bit of a class act. We're miles behind. As I say, I think Rangers just went out there, defeated before a ball was even kicked. It was actually a sore watch, sitting in the stand. I had really great seats there at Hospitality, and the seating where I was quite close to the ground. And I'm watching guys like Tillman couldn't even challenge, wouldn't even make an effort, didn't even look interested. Henderson's floating about, absolutely running the show, not even breaking any sweat. There was no pressure put on him. It was just a really, really poor performance for Rangers. Really, really shocking. There was lots of good Rangers fans went down there in numbers to watch the game, and it was a real sore watch, to be honest with you. It was non-existent for a Rangers team.
Lots of attacking here for Celtic, lots of shots at goal, just can't quite find that finishing touch. That one goes over the bar from Moritz Jens. That's a good spell from Ange Postecoglou's side. Right, what do you think, Marvin? Because I don't think anyone is suggesting Rangers should go there and outplay Liverpool and have real strong expectations of winning the game, but can you still do more within the defeat? I think that's what John's asking for.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people kind of online saying the same thing as John, and Kyogo's could be in here.
Celtic somehow haven't scored in the last few minutes.
It's beginning to feel a bit Shakhtar Donetsk again, isn't it? With the chances are missing.
3 or 4 chances in the last minute for Celtic. As you were, Marvin.
Yeah, sorry, John. Yeah, no, I've seen the points that John's making online quite a lot, and to a certain degree, I understand it, but I think you're going against Liverpool, and they are a class act. You're looking at some of the players within that Liverpool team. You're looking at Salah, who was probably one of the best wingers in the world last season. Van Dijk, one of the best centre halves. Nunes comes in, £67 million. You got Diaz as well. I think it's just a tough task on those.
And now Celtic are behind, and this one will stand, you would imagine. Christopher Nkunku again in. And you have to say, we don't do this too often. Callum McGregor on the edge of the attacking box. Celtic had pressure after pressure. It was corner after corner, efforts at goal. It broke back to McGregor. Bread and butter for him usually.
He just took a heavy
touch.
Yeah.
Nipped off his toes, and as quick as a flash, RB Leipzig up the other end, and the ball ends up in the back of the net.
It's funny actually, because he had an option there to do what he did against Motherwell, actually, and pull the guy down and actually take one for the team. He seemed to decide against it. And
that's a great finish, isn't it, from an acute angle? It's
clinical, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely clinical, top quality.
So Celtic 1-0 down. We will eventually get to the end of your point, John. This is just the difficulty we have on nights like this. John's talking just about, he mentioned, who did he mention? Tillman,
yeah.
For instance. He gave pass marks to Goldson and McGregor.
Yeah.
Could Rangers still have done more?
Possibly, but you look at the 2 goals they conceded, one's from a free kick, one's from a penalty kick. I think they defended extremely well. I really do. I think obviously at the top end, that's where it's more difficult. I think some of the balls that were played forward to Morales were so difficult for him to deal with. I think, they're far too high. Van Dijk, Matip are coming through the back of him. I think they had to play through the lines a lot more. I think, Rangers went too direct too early at times. And I think that's something, as Gio said, I know it's frustrated some people that, we are getting better. And people are saying, well, we just lost 2-0 to Liverpool. I think things have to improve obviously quickly if they want to, finish in 3rd place in the group. But I do think there were some positives from yesterday. I don't think it was all doom and gloom. Was it acceptable? No, because you've lost the game at the end of the day. But I think, the 3 at the back actually all did well, plus McGregor in goal.
Stephen, you were there. Was it? Do you recognise what John's saying? Just not enough. Not enough in the performance to get excited about.
Yeah, I go back to the point. Listen, it's really difficult when you lose a goal like that after 7 minutes. But in essence, Alan McGregor kind of kept Rangers in it, kept a respectable scoreline. There were 2 ways to look at it before the game. 2 ways people were looking at it, which was that Liverpool were weakened and feebled, not quite the same team they'd been. They were losing goals. They'd lost 8 goals in 3 games. But that was the optimistic glass half full version. In reality, I think Liverpool, their athleticism, their speed, their movement was really different class. And listen, maybe that's what you should expect when you have 60 million, 70 million pound footballers in the team. You're looking at a completely different stratosphere financially, where the Liverpool squad's worth 7 times what Rangers squad is worth. So, listen, Marvin will tell you all about that when they come up against Celtic and Rangers in Scotland. Yeah. So, no sympathy. That's just the natural hierarchy of football. But yeah, in a realistic world, what happened to Rangers last night? There was no shame in losing 2-0, but they didn't really do themselves as much justice as I think they would like to think.
Is that a fair rough comparison, Marvin? When your Livingston team play Celtic or Rangers, you may well lose the game, and sometimes there's only so much you can do, but you must, in those games, you'll still see things that you think, well, we should have done that better, get closer there, make it harder, be more ambitious. I'd imagine you and David Martindale, the types of characters you are, you don't get into the office after the game and go, they're better than us, so up the road and see you Monday.
Most definitely, and I totally get your point, and definitely from the side you'll see these things say, they should have got closer. But I've been on the pitch as well against Celtic and Rangers, playing against players who were far more than me, paid a lot more money than me, kind of the same situation that Rangers were in yesterday playing against Liverpool. And it's not always down to finances, but these players are paid that amount of money for a reason. You look at some of the Livingston players when we come against Celtic and Rangers and the difference that they are paid. But I think when you go to that elite level and you've got playing against boys who are on £150,000, £200,000 a week, they really are that much better They really, really are. And they showed that yesterday. And as I said, it's easy to sit on the side and say, why has he not got closer? Why is he not closed down? When you don't have the ball. Rangers players aren't used to not having the ball. How many times domestically will Rangers go into a game, I think they had 33% possession in yesterday's game? It doesn't happen a lot. And mentally and physically, it's very, very tough when you're closing people down, when you don't have the ball, when you've got to concentrate on defending. You're not used to doing that for, against 10 of the 11 teams you play against in the league. So it is totally different for them. Yes, they could have imposed themselves more on the game, but I do understand it. It's not as easy as saying just run more, because they're not used to doing that. That's not part of their game.
What do you think, John?
I think, to be honest with you, just what your guys are saying there, I can disagree to quite a bit there. These guys were running about, not even breaking sweat. No matter how much money they're on, there's professional football players playing with Rangers getting a lot of money as well. Get the boot in, get stuck into them, chase, be hungry. We had none of that last night. Henderson was strolling about, not even breaking a bit of sweat. Now, what I'm basically trying to say is, get somebody on him, get a boot in, get a tackle in. We had none of that. There was no fight, there was no desire.
John, just on that point, sorry to interrupt you. When you're saying about, press people and get the boot in, etc., and chase after people, that's what the top teams want you to do. Because let me tell you something, when you play against Celtic and Rangers, if you go out of position too early, they'll punish you. And the same thing would happen to Rangers yesterday. Gio and the rest of his coaching staff would have had a tactical plan. We can disagree that, it didn't work because obviously they've lost the game. But if you go out of position and think, do you know what, I'm just going to get close to somebody for the sake of getting close to them, and they play the ball around you, all of a sudden there's a massive gap. And then we're having a conversation as, why has that player gone and pressed? Or the manager saying to him, why have you gone and pressed, when you shouldn't have done that? That wasn't a tactical plan. So I do get it. You're thinking, they're not breaking sweat, they're not doing this. But I'm telling you now, when you're sitting behind the ball and you have to concentrate on the rotations that Liverpool have, as I have done against Rangers and Celtic, it's very, very difficult. And if you break too early and you don't win that ball, you'll be punished.
Who are you blaming, John, if that's the right word? Do you not like the way the manager set it out, or did the players themselves shrink, or who gets the blame?
Well, just what Marvin's saying about when Livingston go and play Celtic or Rangers, for instance, these guys will try. The guys will have a go. They'll go and say, do you know what, we'll fancy our chances, we'll get stuck into them. Livingston have gave Celtic and Rangers many good games over the last couple of seasons, but last night, without me actually singling anybody out, right, because it's unfair as a Rangers fan, it was just a real lack of effort. We were defeated before the ball was kicked, in my opinion, and I think we were just like lost boys in that part last night, and that's the problem. As I said, where I was sitting, a really good seat, and I watched Tillman, for instance, didn't even as much as want to make an effort to win that ball or make a challenge, put a boot in, make a challenge. It was there to be won. There was none of that. But Golston and McGregor, as I say, it could have been 2 going on 7 if it wasn't for McGregor pulling it.
Yeah, John.
Last saves again.
John, I listen, I can't dispute that there may have been a gap in terms of golfing quality. There might have been a gulf in terms of the technical ability, the athleticism, the speed, the movement. I can't say Rangers didn't try or didn't put in effort. I think that's a wee bit unfair.
Thank you, John. What do you think, Rangers fans? Are you agreeing or disagree with what you hear? 01419511025. Breaking play in Leipzig with 33 gone. Juranovic has taken an elbow to the head and he's down getting treatment.
Some boxers cut that.
Do you know what? See, when it happened, I thought that's not much in that. It looked like the tiniest touch, but the elbows all. Wonder if he'll be able to continue, because that looks quite nasty.
There was a rare sight before as well with Callum McGregor, who had to go off for treatment in a knee injury. He's limping a bit gingerly, so you don't see that very often.
Life at this level, Marvin, the stats flashed up, and I know they don't tell everything, but it was 50% possession each. I think Celtic had more efforts on goal and more on target, and as quick as a flash they're behind, and Kunku is worth whatever amount of money and wanted by many big teams, and he's made Celtic pay. Yeah,
that's normally the difference, the players at the top end and how quickly they broke, by the way, because if anyone's not seen the goal, like you said, Stephen, the speed from them having defending a corner to them putting the ball in the back of the net, it was like lightning. And those players, like say international footballers, those ones at the top end are the ones who make the real difference, because you can sit behind, you can defend, but it's when you're transitioning from kind of attacking to try and then defend, you can't catch them, and that's a difficult thing for Celtic. But they have had more than enough chances. I think Andrew said to them, listen, at half time, if it's still at 1-0, you'll get more chances.
Well, they always have a goal, don't they?
Yes, they do.
It's funny though, Marvin, isn't it? Because we always say one mistake at this level, you're punished. That's the case in point, isn't it? Look at that.
How many mistakes does Callum McGregor make? How many heavy touches does Callum McGregor take in the 300 games he plays a season? Not many.
Not many at all.
And you think if you're going to do it right, do it 90 yards from your own goal, and
you'll be safe, and you're not.
They were having a good spell at that point, missed a couple of chances, but lack of clinical finishing has cost them so far, and that's the case tonight as much as it was a Shakhtar Donetsk actually.
It's all the rage. Head knocks this week. Marvin Bartley's had one of his own. I'll find out more about that next. 01419511025. Juranovic is back up. Rangers fans, what did you think of last night? The Super Scoreboard podcast is sponsored by Taggart's Motor Group. Taggart's have Jaguar, Land Rover and Volvo showrooms across Glasgow and the West, so you can find the new or used approved car that's right for you. And as Taggart's are part of the Lookers family, one of the largest franchise dealer groups in the UK, you can browse thousands of nearly new and used vehicles in stock nationwide to find your perfect vehicle. They've also launched Click and Sell. It makes selling your car simple by using their trusted dealer network of over 150 sites. Why not give it a go today? See how much you could make on your old car. Taggart's have Land Rover showrooms in Motherwell, Darnley and the north of Glasgow, with their Jaguar and Volvo showrooms found in Hillington. Check out taggarts.co.uk to get your new or used approved Land Rover, Jaguar or Volvo today. Now let's get back to the podcast.
RB Leipzig versus Celtic. The Old Firm in Europe's big league. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Celtic fans, it's gone from bad to worse. Not on the scoreboard. You're still 1-0 down, but captain Callum McGregor, the man who plays every minute of every game it seems, has gone off injured, and it looks like a knee injury. He didn't really have anyone around him. He tried to carry on and couldn't, and he's gone off to be replaced by Oliver Abelgard. Recent signing, has played 1 minute off the bench against Motherwell at the weekend.
Yeah,
welcome to the club.
For Callum McGregor to leave the pitch, you would normally expect an axe to be embedded in his head. So that really tells you it must be a pretty painful one.
And that at any time is not ideal for Celtic, Marvin. They're behind in Leipzig. They're trying to get something in the Champions League as Kyogo headers over. They're still giving a good account of themselves going forward. But immediately you're probably looking at, is that going to keep him out longer? He's suspended in the league this weekend anyway. But for him, as Stephen says, him to go down with a knee injury and go off, that would be fearing the worst, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a massive worry, no doubt about it. Obviously, like you said, for the remains of this game, but also going forward. Callum McGregor's been a driving force for Celtic for however long. I don't know how many games he's missed in recent times, if any at all. I just wonder if he's picked up that knee injury for when he tried to do the block tackle at the edge of the box when they've conceded, because he kind of grimaced after doing that. But I don't know if that was a frustration at the time, of losing the tackle, or he's actually hurt his knee. So maybe it is, kind of on the back end of that he's hurt it. But yeah, that's a massive blow to lose your captain.
It's a funny game, Stephen. 42 minutes gone now, so we're almost at half time. We just mentioned that Kyogo header over. Celtic have been absolutely fine going forward, and that they're creating, and we know they give it a go, they always do. And they possibly could have scored, but you also feel like Leipzig could score a couple more if they wanted to as well.
They've got real tempo, Leipzig, real strength going forward. The big 3 minutes is for Celtic. If they get to half time at 1-0, I think they'll be quite happy with that in the circumstances. They can regroup, reset the body, reset themselves and get back into it again. But the thing with Callum McGregor is he's a player who I think fans just take him for granted, and he's only really one you notice when he's not there. You really become aware of his influence then. And it would be a really savage blow for Celtic if it's any kind of seriousness. Right,
we'll keep an eye on that. We'll go to Leipzig, get a report from the stadium at half time, and then Celtic fans, that would be a great opportunity, wouldn't it, for you to tell us how you felt about the first half. Stephen's a Rangers fan in Newton Mearns. What did you take away from that game last night, Stephen?
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. I was wanting to put to the panel to see what they thought about the kind of application of some of the players at Rangers based on this year, not just in Europe but also in the league as well compared to last year. And I wonder if it's that kind of staleness of a team that doesn't kind of change often enough, and if there's certain guys that are maybe had expected to get a move by now or wanted a move by now that the heads are down a wee bit, which quite ironically to me would seem, if you have the opportunity in the Champions League, that is the shop window to really give your best. I just don't feel that maybe some players are giving their best at the moment.
Who in particular then, Stephen?
I feel like Kent and Kamara and Morelos is doing, injury aside, but I just feel like maybe these guys have been asked to hang on for another season, when really they wanted, moves to the Premiership to be. I know Kamara has been talked about going to France, but he's also quoted as saying he'd quite like to go down to England. And again, no problems with someone having ambition. It's just really that kind of contrast of, well, if you want to be picked up with the big teams, you've got to look like you're the player. They don't want to see a guy that's kind of playing with their head down, or the attitude's not quite there. Just the team that we had last year, it's not a major difference in players, but the application just doesn't seem to be the same in some areas.
Can that happen? Can things go stale? Because you guys have said it, you in particular, Marvin, the likelihood that Ryan Kent sits in the dressing room before the game and thinks, I'm not bother, I'm not going to give this a go, I'm not giving it 100% tonight in our Morelos or whoever, that's just not going to happen. But sometimes is there this thing that you can't put your finger on where the level does just drop, and like I said, is it stale? I think that's what Stephen's getting at, rather than just accusing people of deliberately not trying.
Yeah, that can happen in football, most definitely. I think, if you read some of the stuff about Mourinho and Ancelotti, two of the top coaches in the world, they always say you have to refresh things. Pep's always been the same. Whether it's one or two players, you always have to refresh things. You have to change things for the benefit of the squad and the team, because things do get stale in football. There's no chance that any player isn't going out there and giving 100%. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Everyone's going out there and giving their all. One thing, a point that Stephen made is, if people are looking at going elsewhere, and I don't know if they are, just in answering to his question, it's Rangers Football Club. So do you know what? If a player doesn't want to be there, then go. I think it's a massive football club, one that, a lot of people would want to play for. I don't think it ever works if you try and keep somebody almost against their will and say, give me one more season. It kind of never ends well, and I don't think Rangers would be doing that, because I think, the pool of players that they can attract, if you don't want to be at a club of that size, especially now playing in the Champions League, then, you have to really question yourself. So I don't think there is any players. And just the final point is, we're talking about Rangers being stale and not doing that well. They're 2 points behind Celtic. I think they've lost one game this season. So sometimes put things in perspective. It's literally the start of the season. They've won 6 out of 8 games, and people are saying they're not playing well. The sign of a good team is winning when you're not playing well. So imagine when they do get into full flow, if that's what people believe, there's a lot more to come from players.
Has he made you feel better about it, Stephen?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to think, that every team goes through the rough periods over a season, and maybe we're just getting us out of the way early. But I think what Marvin says makes sense, and I do think I'm not wanting to say that a player wouldn't give 100%. These guys are professionals at the end of the day, but it's just the stark contrast. I was also wondering if you've got time. I was wanting to put a second point, kind of football related, across. That's quite important.
Yeah, let's do that in a second. No problem. Plenty of time. We'll throw some of your stuff back at Stephen McGowan. Stephen, I think what I'm detecting from the Rangers fans that phone in is it is about more than just last night, because we've said with the opening to the show, but look, this was Liverpool. If that was game 1 of the season, you go to Liverpool, you lose 2-0, you think, right, fair enough. The fans who are being critical, rightly or wrongly, feel like this is part of a pattern or part of a bigger picture that they want to complain about.
Well, you don't have to go back too far in history to see what happens when they do it, when you have players who seem to want away from a club and the impact it has. If you look at Celtic's 10 in a row campaign, you had Christopher Ajer, you had Odsonne Edouard, you had Ryan Christie. If you remember when they went out to Champions League qualifiers, Neil Lennon had a bit of a sidewinder at them. He felt that there were players who didn't necessarily want to be there, and it turned into a season of relative disaster for Celtic. So it can. Marvin will have a better awareness of this than any of us, but it does clearly have an impact on performances and results. And I think most people looking at it now would look at a situation where you could have Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos leaving Rangers at the end of the season for nothing as a strategic error by the people running the club. The Rangers have spoken for a long time about developing a player trading model. Well, they've got that up and running now. They sold Nathan Patterson, they sold Calvin Bassey. They got good money for players, Joe Aribo as well. But you just wonder if they should have had that player trading model up and running a little bit sooner and got Ryan Kent and got Alfredo Morelos out the door for good money.
Stephen, what was your other point?
The other sort of football-related point, a friend of mine, James Howe, and his brother, they're currently organising a Charlie's Charity Old Firm match on the 5th of November. It's up at Lochburn Park in Maryhill. This is off the back of, unfortunately, their father passed away in March this year, and he had struggled in the past with mental health, and this is basically, they're raising money for the Scottish Association for Mental Health. and it's just trying to get the word out there. You know, it's a great charity, and the guys are doing a kind of Old Firm game up at Loughburn Park. Kicks off at 1 o'clock. You can find the information on the Just Giving page if you search for Charlie's Charity Old Firm Match. Looking for donations. They're also looking for any help in terms of they would like to do a sort of raffle or anything like that. I think the last I spoke to James, they were looking for green strips for the day. They're just struggling to get anything that would kind of match what they're looking for on the other side. So it was just to really put that out there. I appreciate you guys giving me the chance to put that across.
Not a problem. We wish everyone well. Obviously a worthy cause. If you're looking for a special guest referee, we'll send Marvin Bartley up.
More of a lines person,
since he's such an expert on the offside calls. But no, seriously, we do wish everyone well with that. Thank you, Stephen, for bringing it to our attention. Just a couple of minutes to go. 7 minutes added on at the end of this first half. There was the Callum McGregor injury, there was the Josip Juranovic head knock. Kyogo just tries to get in the end of that header, but it's cleared away. There was the goal that Leipzig scored and then was ruled out.
Leipzig keeper?
Yes, of course, Leipzig keeper. When I started that sentence, I was going to say Celtic are probably hanging on a bit at the end of the first half. And then in that short time, Celtic have raced up the pitch twice, and it's not come to anything. It's been
pretty much what you expected Ange Postecoglou's Celtic to be in the Champions League. Actually, you know, it could just as easily be 1-1 or it could just as easily be losing 3 or 4-0. It's been incredibly open, probably a bit too open, and at times it's looked as if RB Leipzig could cut through them. Abelgard played very little football, beginning to show a little bit as well. So you know, I think Celtic will welcome the chance of getting at half time. Just get things settled down again. Not too far away at all. We will go back to Leipzig. We'll speak to Gabriel, who's in the stadium, and can give us an update from there. Celtic fans, it would be a perfect time for you to get in touch, wouldn't it, if you call us at half time when you're going to put the kettle on, or maybe opting for something stronger if this game's got you a bit nervous. Please pick up that phone and let us know. You can tweet as well at Clyde SSB. Rangers fans, lots of thoughts coming in to last night. Stephen, who was on the phone there, was talking more, you know, bigger picture about players and their desire to be there and so on, and rather than just the game last night. Bit of miscommunication there from Stephen Welsh and Joe Hart.
Yeah, that wasn't great at all. I think Joe Hart's given them a call, but I suppose as a defender, you know, if you're not sure the goalkeeper's going to make it and you clear it and then sort that out at half time. I'm just wondering, I know it's against kind of what Ange does and the way Celtic play, whether they'll be better sitting off the ball, because Leipzig seem a lot better when they're actually counter-attacking Celtic. So Celtic seem, as soon as they give it away, kind of in Leipzig's defensive third, Celtic's attacking third, all of a sudden you seem to be defending. I wonder if they're better off sitting off the game, letting them have the ball, and then trying to play them at their own game, because you know, I think when you go and press high against Leipzig, it seems to, that's what they want you to do.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting half. Celtic, you can make a case to say that they could be level, certainly on the chances created, but Leipzig will feel they've dominated the half as well. Let's get the story from the stadium.
Super Scoreboard European football coverage with MoyerandSweeney.com. The top team for your defence.
Take it away, Gabriel.
Half time here in Germany, and it is 1-0 to RB Leipzig. Celtic have had chances, but Christopher Nkunku's counter-attacking goal is the difference at the interval. You've got to say Leipzig are worthy of their lead. Early on, it seemed like it might be a tough, long old night for the Hoops. Andre Silva and Nkunku flash chances past the post in the first 2 minutes. Celtic then settled down. Their first chance came when Leipzig goalkeeper Gulashi went down injured. He cleared the ball into the feet of Reo Hatate, but he rushed his shot from 25 yards, took it with his weak foot, and it didn't come to anything. In the 18th minute, the hosts thought they were in front. Nkunku again was slipped through. It was marginal, but it was a lovely dinked finish when it came over Joe Hart. It was disallowed by VAR after it was shown that Nkunku was just ahead of Josip Juranovic. That seemed to wake Celtic up, though. They had a brilliant 10-minute spell where they really rattled Leipzig, got in their faces, and really should have scored. It started with a brilliant header from Kyogo after a ball in from Dazen, made it on the right wing. A great save from the substitute goalkeeper for Leipzig. Greg Taylor was then the next one to have an effort saved. A short corner, well worked into left back. Curling effort blocked by the keeper, and then another poor clearance from Leipzig gave Kyogo a fantastic chance. The ball took forever to drop to him, though. Took his time, and it was deflected, went out for a corner, and that is where it all went wrong for Celtic. Another short corner came to captain Callum McGregor at the edge of the box, usually so reliable, but he took a heavy touch and suddenly Leipzig pounced. They had 5 players sprinting into the Celtic half. McGregor couldn't quite get back and Kunku was slipped through, and this time it would stand. He calmly rounded Hart and showed why he is Chelsea bound with a cool finish. McGregor then had to come off with a knock, perhaps sustained in that tackle from the edge of the box. Oliver Albergaard came on, but that's a massive blow for the Hoops. The half then seemed to fizzle out until Kyogo flashed a header over and Joe Hart was forced into a few stoppage time saves. You've got to say, it has been end to end. Celtic have had chances, but they're going to need to regroup if they're to get anything out of this game. Leipzig looks so dangerous when going forward, especially on the break. Half time here at the Red Bull Arena. Leipzig 1, Celtic 0.
Let's take a quick call from Jack, who's a Celtic fan, having watched that first half. Jack, what did you make of it?
Well, I've no idea how it's only 1-0, to be fair. Chances galore. I was just speaking to your producer about not just the chances that Celtic are missing, but just some of the decision making that we get in the second half. In the first half, it seems to be like 2 or 3 passes getting towards goal, and we just waste time after time. Hatate can be, one of the prime suspects of that. Does a lot of great stuff on the ball, but seems to lose it in a lot of positions going forward. And I think Juranovic is doing a lot in the first half also, covering a lot of ground, especially for Welsh. Obviously, it's a big need for him, but I think there's definitely more goals in this game. I think one of them will definitely come from Celtic.
Celtic always look like scoring in the Champions League, Marvin, but it doesn't always translate into that number. Well, they have one against Shakhtar, should have been far more than that. None against Real when they probably should have scored. Maybe not quite the clear-cut ones tonight, but again, creating is chance taking, but a problem. Everyone will always obsess with Ange Postecoglou and how he's too open, but all of that would seem different if they would take more of their chances. Most definitely, and Ange probably at half time is in danger of sounding like a broken record, because like you said, against Real Madrid they had a few chances. Shakhtar, they had some better chances, and then tonight they've not taken them, as kind of Jack said there. But again, the hardest thing in football is creating chances. It really, really is. And normally you go through games, you don't create a lot in the Champions League. They've created chances. It's that final bit now that they have to get right. And to be putting the pressure on the players, because it's gone from, next time we can do better to now. This is your time. You have 45 minutes to go out there. We must punish them in the final third like they did to us. And the attacking players have to take that on. They have to take that responsibility on. If it's domestically, those chances are in the back of the net. So there's a different pressure, isn't there, when you're playing in the Champions League? And we're seeing that from Celtic in the games. But they are creating chances. They are performing well. But just that final bit we spoke about earlier, where Nkunku at the other end is worth, whatever he's worth, £70 million, apparently going to Chelsea. That's kind of the difference, isn't it? But listen, if Kyogo gets in front of goal again, I fancy him putting it away. You feel none the wiser, Stephen. We're halfway through and you could see Celtic getting something, and you could also see them losing heavily tonight.
It's Ange Postecoglou. It's risk and reward, isn't it? Because if he goes for it, he plays free up front. He has Maeda, he has Jota. You can argue whether they are really going to contribute a massive amount in a night like this, so maybe you need to be a bit more defensive. But listen, last night Rangers are getting criticised for not playing a normal game. Celtic are playing a normal game. He's uncompromising. He sticks to his principles. And, if his team are going to go down, as he said before, he wants them to go down swinging. And that's just the way it is. And listen, anybody who thinks that's going to change under Ange Postecoglou is kidding themselves on. So, Jack, still a bit of faith that something can go in your favour in the second half? You're not fearing the worst?
Yeah, I think the game is really going to be won in the middle of the park. I feel like there's a lot of loose balls going on in the middle of the park. They've got some great players, Campbell, etc. But I just feel that if we win the ball in the middle of the park and we get it forward quick enough, it's only a matter of time, for Kyogo or Jota to stick one away. Yeah, the midfield battle's got harder, of course. No Callum McGregor, he's gone off injured. Thank you to Jack. What are you Celtic fans making of this? And what about you Rangers fans from last night? How do you look back on a tough evening at Anfield? Call now and we'll try and get you on next.
RB Leipzig versus Celtic. The Old Firm in Europe's big league. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
It is half time in Leipzig, where it's RB Leipzig 1, Celtic 0. Gandalf is on Twitter, says decent game, could be 3-3. Biggest worry is the McGregor injury, hopefully not bad, but I fear the worst. Quite a good summation of events, Stephen. Not a lot to argue with there.
I think that will be the thought in every Celtic supporter's mind right now. How bad is Callum McGregor? That will be the dominant question. The first question Ange Postecoglou gets asked in the post-match: win, lose or draw, I think.
Celtic will all obviously look at what they can do, and that's where we would focus. I think you can see, Marvin, that Leipzig are quite at it tonight. They've had a real mixed bag this season. They had disappointing results. That's why the manager got sacked. They've looked better since the new one came in. I think they won 4-0 at the weekend. They look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do look a lot better. And like you said, the manager was sacked. They got the new manager bounce. But, you know, within all that, Celtic still creating enough chances. And that would be the positive that Ange will be saying to his players. Listen, we can get back into this game. Yes, kind of at the back, we have to keep it tight. We have to be aware of the counter-attacks. We have to make sure if they do counter-attack us, they're counter-attacking wide rather than through the middle of us. But listen, at the top end, we're creating chances. Now up to you boys to take them. You know, these players want to play in the Champions League, and be saying to them, listen, go and prove it. Go and show the rest of the world what you can do, because I believe in what you can do. You guys believe in what you can do. Let's go and show everyone else now, and you know, hopefully get a goal or two in the second half.
01419511025 Celtic fans, if you want to talk to us at the break, you can tweet as well, of course. And Rangers fans, we're still looking back on events at Anfield. Stephen, the notion that Ange Postecoglou does something drastically different after the break, it's not even a real debate anymore. We've been through this. We know the way he likes to go about his business, and actually he's already been forced into one significant change with Callum McGregor off and Abelgard on. Yeah,
I think the likely changes. The way it usually goes is after an hour, when players are beginning to tire a bit. I think you'll see Haksabanovic coming off from Maeda possibly. You'll probably see Giakoumakis, who's fit again, on the bench. That's a bit of a boost for him. Doesn't have fantastic options tonight because of obvious absentees, so he's probably quite limited in his options. He's already made one big change in midfield. I think he'll just try and freshen it up front, maybe 50 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, as you say, Haksabanovic, Giakoumakis, two obvious options. Both missed the game at the weekend, both come back in. No Liel Abada, remember, he didn't travel due to religious reasons. With all the focus on the back two, Marvin, of Stephen Welsh and Moritz Jens, and a lot of Celtic fans fearing the worst, how have they done specifically? Celtic's undoing, has it not been the fact that the team's been quite open rather than that those two specifically are having poor games?
Most definitely. You know, I think those two young men have done well. Like I said, you know, against St Mirren it was very, very different for them, but tonight I think in the first 45 minutes they've done well. It's just a counter-attack, isn't it? I spoke about the transition earlier of kind of Celtic attacking and them getting back and defending. So, you know, the two centre-halves aren't at blame for absolutely anything, but they have to do that again. There's no good doing it for 45 minutes. They need to do it for the second 45 minutes as well and give their boys up front a chance of getting them back in the game.
Teams are back out quickly. Gabriel, any changes at the break?
No, it doesn't seem that way, Gordon. As Stephen was touching on earlier, not too many options for Ange Postecoglou, but the two obvious ones are Sead Haksabanovic and Yorgos Giakoumakis. Surely we're going to see plenty of minutes from those two. It's usually the 60th minute mark that Ange Postecoglou goes to make his substitutions. We're going to have to wait and see. Celtic are going to have to do something here if they are going to get a result. Leipzig looking so dangerous on the counter-attack as well, and they've got players on the bench they could bring on, likes of Emil Forsberg, Sweden international. So yeah, second half just about to get underway here in Germany. It's a big task for Celtic here.
It's still 45 minutes of this game, Stephen, but already the battle for second in Celtic's group's going to be fascinating. If you assume Real Madrid beat Shakhtar, then okay, I think that's what most people would expect, and they would go off into the distance on 9 points. Shakhtar would stay on 4, Celtic would stay on 1 if things remain as they are, and Leipzig would go on to 3. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that Celtic do beat Leipzig in Glasgow next week, so it's still going to be extremely tight, isn't it?
To be honest, Gordon, I think the best place for Celtic and Rangers to finish is third. It might sound ridiculous to say, well, you wouldn't qualify, but you would get the big money, you would get the big games, you get the big crowds, and then you get Europa League football after Christmas. For Rangers, you know, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst said last night they need to take points. Liverpool at home, they've got Napoli away. That's going to be a real big ask, and then try and make the final game against Ajax mean something. Even then, that depends on Ajax dropping points.
Yeah.
And Celtic will be looking to do the same, because they're a real. And listen, let's be honest. For me, Celtic and Rangers are effectively Europa League teams.
Yeah. Although I do get that, and it might not end brilliantly, but what an achievement it would be. And that would be my point. Although you are at the top table, and although there's a perception that you're out of your depth, Celtic could lose this game tonight and still be in with a fighting chance because of the way the group's panning out.
Yeah, but I tend to always think about these things. I think back to Celtic making the last 16 a couple of times against Juventus and AC Milan. You don't really remember those games of any great affection or fondness
if you don't win them.
If you don't win them, if you get to the Europa League semi-final or the final, it becomes an epic season. So, I've been quite saying that all along, that the real prize for Celtic and Rangers in this tournament is to get a third place in the groups and just keep themselves in the battle, keep their hopes alive going into the new year.
Well, it's definitely going to be doable. Not to say that Celtic will, Marvin, but like we said, even if they lose this tonight, all that's going to do is bunch Leipzig next to Shakhtar, and Celtic would only be 2 points behind Leipzig anyway ahead of the game in Glasgow. So I'm sure Ange Postecoglou's got loftier ambitions and wants to get something tonight, and in fact he might have a golden opportunity here. Kyogo's through, he's squared it to Jota, and Celtic have equalised. 47 minutes on the clock, a devastating counter-attack from Celtic, and Jota rolls the ball into the bottom corner, expertly set up by Kyogo, and it's Leipzig 1, Celtic 1.
Well, we spoke about them being sharp at the top end, didn't we? And 2 minutes into the second half, they've gone and done that.
I think they've listened. I think they had us on.
Was it me that said 3 minutes ago you're not sure about the value of Maeda and Jota and things like this? That's why I don't do a coupon.
We did also say, let's cover our own backs. We did also say you could easily see Celtic scoring, and you could easily see Leipzig running away with it. It was that kind of
it's a good finish.
end game. It's a really good
Jota.
goal, isn't it?
Yeah. Next bit of decision making from Kyogo, and a really cool finish from Jota.
His awareness there for any young centre forward that gets to see this goal, doesn't even look up once. He knows where his player is. He knows where he is, and that is the elite. We speak about, if that's at the other end, we're saying, that's unbelievable. Kyogo, that is the elite.
I even really like the finish from Jota. I know it seems simple, but he's running at pace. The ball comes across, and he's able just to guide it back the way it came.
Well, he knows the goalkeeper's coming, across to where he is, so he knows his body weight's all shifting to the goalkeeper's right. So if he kicks it to his left, there's no chance he can dive and save it. He puts it to the goalkeeper's right, he can still get down.
There we are. What a game we've got on our hands. What a game we're about to have on our hands here as well.
Beat the Pundit with the Scottish Sun.
For the best football news and opinion online, thescottishsun.co.uk/football.
Stephen McGowan visibly shrinks when he hears the Beat the Pundit music.
I'm not very tall at the best of times.
Marvin has a love-hate relationship with Beat the Pundit. You were all full of it. You were full of bravado last week, and then you lost.
Yeah, that was a problem. That defeat has hit me hard.
Has it?
Yeah.
The confidence crisis like Liverpool, is it?
Let's see how we go tonight. 01419511025, and if you want to beat the pundit, your call must be in before 7 o'clock.
RB Leipzig versus Celtic. The Old Firm in Europe's big league. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Still RB Leipzig 1, Celtic 1. That Jota goal just before the news gets Celtic right back into it, and the game hasn't changed at all. Celtic look lively when they go forward, and RB Leipzig definitely look lively when they go forward. It's going to be quite the finish. So Celtic fans, if you can bear to come out from behind the couch and give us a call, we're here for you. Rangers fans, I suspect you will definitely want to get something off your chest about last night. So 01419511025. Of course, a famous victory in the Highlands for Motherwell that we've not got to yet. And Kilmarnock St Johnstone tonight as well in the Scottish Premiership. St Johnstone all of a sudden on quite a good little run, and Kilmarnock could be doing with picking up some points. But the real match of the night has to be this one.
Beat the Pundit with the Scottish Sun.
For the best football news and opinion online, thescottishsun.co.uk/football.
Right, Beat the Pundit time. Marvin Bartley, you've had a rough week. You've come in here, you've got a big scar on your head. I can see it from here. I noticed on social media you were posting pictures of the blood on your head. Oh, look at me, please feel sorry for me. All that sort of stuff. A training ground accident.
Yeah, Neil Hastings, another coach, by the way. I don't know what he's trying to get a contract, clearly. Ball comes at the back post, I'm just trying to head it away. He's trying to score like it's a World Cup final. Clash of heads. Yeah.
I mean, Stephen, you've got to ask questions when two coaches are clashing heads going up for a header.
You train as you play, yeah? That's what they always say, train as you play.
Well, I'm done, so I don't know what I'm doing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, really. Leipzig hit the post. It was a wonderful move,
really
by the
was.
way, on the edge of the box. Really, really sharp stuff.
My goodness.
So let me get this straight. Two coaches go up for a header and clash heads, both bleeding. Who put the cross in for the clashed heads?
The gaffer.
Oh, you're joking.
The floater, I know.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I know. You couldn't make it up, could you?
Did the players, are they allowed to take part in training, or is it all about you three?
No, it's all about us three. The gaffer's the floater.
I'm glad. The ball's hit Greg Taylor's
hand. Don't really knew much about it.
I don't know if it's one of those that pops up off his foot.
You can't do anything
I
about
think
that.
it popped up off his foot. Right, anyway. Tonight's contestant beat the pundit Stephen in Moss Park. How's it going, Stephen?
Fine.
Now, Stephen, producer Chris, sorry to land you in it, he tells me you're a wee bit nervous. Is that fair?
Yeah.
But do you know the good thing about this? Of every pundit we ever have on this show, Stephen McGowan is the most nervous, right? Your namesake feels the same. Bartley's all over the place. He's had stitches in his head.
He's concussed.
He lost last week.
You should be spared under concussion protocol, should you not? 2 weeks off.
He's still having nightmares about Sean Kelly's penalty in Paisley at the weekend. So Stephen in Moss Park, it's fine, okay?
Yep.
Good. You're amongst friends. It will be absolutely fine. And above all that, I would be delighted if you would beat Marvin Bartley. I don't feel so strongly about poor Steve McGowan. He's just a genuinely nice man, but Marvin deserves to lose quite regularly. So heads it's Stephen, tails it's Marvin, and it's tails. Marvin Bartley up against Stephen in Moss Park. So Marvin, we'll give you some Clyde 2 to listen to, so that you can't hear what's going on. Right, Stephen, 30 seconds, just answer as many as you can and pass if you don't know. That's the best advice I can give you, alright?
Yep.
Right, top man then, 30 seconds on the clock. Your time starts now. Who was older on their Celtic debut, Dion Dublin or Freddie Ljungberg?
Lundberg.
Name the last team Celtic beat in the group stages of the Champions League.
Pass.
Richard Foster is currently player manager of a team in which country?
Pass.
Name any previous Livy manager who wasn't Scottish.
Pass.
Name any manager in Scotland who's previously managed in the English top flight.
Pass.
Which Celtic first team goalkeeper hasn't played a league game this season? You've got a bit of time because I started the question. Which Celtic goalkeeper in the first team squad hasn't played a league game this season yet?
Pass.
Alright, let's bring in Marvin Bartley. Can you hear us, Marvin?
Yeah. I've never seen Callum move so quickly unless I can still hear the questions.
How you feeling alright?
Yeah. How does Stephen do?
Not telling you. Ready?
No. Yeah.
Who was older on their Celtic debut, Dion Dublin or Freddie Ljungberg?
Dion Dublin.
Name the last team Celtic beat in the group stages of the Champions League.
Pass.
Richard Foster is currently player manager of a team in which country?
America.
Name any previous Livy manager who wasn't Scottish.
Pass.
Name any manager in Scotland who's previously managed in the English top flight.
Pass. Wow.
Which Celtic first team goalkeeper hasn't played any league games this season
Scott
yet?
Bain.
Okay. Stephen, was it as bad as you feared?
Worse.
Were you worse than me, Stephen?
Definitely.
Lucky.
Stephen racked up more passes in that game than Barcelona did in the entire 2017 season.
I would actually have done okay in that one.
Would you?
Yeah,
But
so.
no pressure on.
Yeah,
Easy to say
that's
that
true,
now.
that's true.
Stephen, I love it, mate.
Do you know what, Stephen?
What a guy.
I was happy for you in the sense that the first question was a 50-50, so I thought at least my goodness.
For RB Leipzig.
Yeah, Celtic are 2-1 down and there's not much you can do about that. Blasted into the bottom corner from about 25 yards out. It's a wonderful finish. 61 minutes gone. RB Leipzig 2, Celtic 1. Hats off to that.
Yeah, that's some finish. Like you said,
Tremendous bit of finish.
yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. You can talk about trying to close the ball down, but sometimes in football you've got to hold your hands up and say, do you know what, that's good attacking play.
Yeah, Stephen in Moss Park might be having to hold his hands up here because he got Freddie Ljungberg wrong and you got Dion Dublin right. Wow. 36 and 33, 1-0 to Marvin. The last team Celtic beat in the group stages, Stephen?
Anderlecht.
Anderlecht. None of you got that. Is there going to be a little check here, right? There's a
No.
player who ducks in front of Joe Hart and he's offside. No? Okay, we'll see. Richard Foster's currently in the USA, 2-0 to Marvin. This question was tough. I'm not sure that I've got this, Stephen, because there's so many to choose from. Name any previous Livy manager who wasn't Scottish.
Marcelo?
Marcio Maximo, Mark
yeah.
Proctor, Roberto Landi, guys like that. I mean,
Heard
really
none
tough.
of them. Oh, they're checking it, Gordon. You could be right.
Goodness me.
Well, they would check any goal anyway, wouldn't they? But I just mean the fact that he was certainly in front of Joe Hart. It's just the question is, does he interfere or not?
Well, Joe Hart wasn't getting to that. I'm sorry, but
Do you know what Joe Hart needs to do there? Is cause more of a
he's
fuss.
offside.
He's going to have a look, you know. He's going to have a look. Joe Hart should complain more.
Usually that means
they're going to turn it over.
Yeah. You shall see.
Anyway, name any manager in Scotland who's previously managed in England's top flight. Malky Mackay or Owen Coyle. So none of you got it. And the Celtic goalie who hasn't played the game this season is Scott Bain, which means it's a 3-0 win for Marvin Bartley Stephen.
It happens. It happens, Stephen. Listen, don't worry, mate. Sometimes you come up against teams that are just too good. And I was talking about attacking play just now. Mine was too good today.
Do you know what, Stephen, though? That's you got the nerves out the way. You can give it another go at some point, yeah?
Exactly.
Good.
I'm just so glad you're talking about the Celtic game during it.
Exactly, and them conceding, that's cheered you up. Stephen's a Rangers fan.
He's going to give offside.
That was Stephen in Moss Park. Let's see.
Offside, yeah.
Oh my, that's a big break for Celtic.
Bartley and Duncan are the offside correspondents.
Your VAR though.
That's what I've learned.
Celtic fans celebrating as well. They might
celebrated it like a goal of their own.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I love that. He's tapping the bag and all sorts.
Who says VAR sucks the joy out of football, Stephen? It does for the home team.
2 RB Leipzig goals now chalked off, and tell you what, 2 brilliant goals as well. But listen, the rules are the rules.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's what it's there for.
That's a reminder though to Celtic.
It is.
That's a reminder. They ever needed
It's
one.
going to be a lot. It's Joe Hart giving it.
It's going to be done this time. Celtic have conceded. This one unbelievable. No, that's going to count.
Yeah,
Joe Hart, unbelievable.
I'll tell you what,
that's unforgivable, Stephen.
Listen, I'm afraid to say errors are becoming a feature of Joe Hart's game now. Big, decisive.
That's
errors.
remarkable.
Yeah.
Marvin, the Celtic fans are still celebrating getting a VAR call in their favour, and Joe Hart passes it straight to RB Leipzig, who go and score.
If you have an inexperienced mid-central defence like that,
goodness.
you really need a leader like Joe Hart to show up and help them out, and he's just sold them down the river there. That's a dreadful mistake.
So poor.
Dreadful.
If the Leipzig player misses that ball, it's not even going to a Celtic player.
No.
It's
dreadful.
It's not in the vicinity even of a player. Look behind, there's no one there.
That was always a concern, of course, at Manchester City about Joe Hart, about his kicking game, and I'm afraid that's really poor stuff. That's really
wow.
Can't. I know.
I don't necessarily expect Ange Postecoglou's Celtic to change the way they play, and they shouldn't. You know, all this stuff that you just kick it up the pitch. They're not going to do it. What's the point? We're wasting our time. But does that then come down to a bit of game management? You know, where you've just had that break and Joe Hart's got it. Can you just for that one split second take stock and not try and rush a pass out to someone, or maybe look to clip a channel just in that one moment?
Yeah, it comes down to decision making, because they're set up, and Jens pulls to the left, by the way, and he's free for a square pass. So the defenders have done exactly what they're due to do. The goalkeeper's made the wrong decision. If you're playing from the back, you have to make the right decisions. And if you make a wrong decision, listen, if you give it to Jens and he gets overturned, then you've got a chance of getting it back. But you can't do that. I mean, as I said, the pass is poor. There's no one behind him. Greg Taylor ends up pressing from the left-hand side, but the ball's curling out to the Leipzig player's right-hand side. So, no, that's not acceptable. I don't think you clip it down the line. I think you just make a better decision. And the goalkeeper's played at the level he has. You know, as I said, it's not an inexperienced goal.
Well, we've discussed the danger of Celtic having the central defence they have tonight. That was nothing to do with them. No. And that, you look at the Motherwell goal as well, the own goal for Juranovic, and for me, Joe Hart was at fault there as well. So, becoming a bit of a pattern and a worrying one for Celtic.
Yeah, and Celtic have been robbed. They were in a good attacking position. They looked like they were trying to make something happen after conceding that goal, but Leipzig got the pitch. Anyway, Ian, as a Rangers fan in Portsmouth, how do you look back on last night, Ian?
I thought it was absolutely shocking. I don't know what Gio sees in Tillman at all. He's never played a good game for Rangers. Kent's just no interested. I'd just like to see what the panel and that think about that.
It's an interesting time for Tillman, Marvin, because he starts the season well, but he's been played in a number of big games and struggled. Not to say he's been the only one, obviously. But then what's strange about it is when it got back round to the bread and butter league games, he's now not really playing them either.
Yeah, and I said it before on the show. For me, Tillman's a number 10. You know, that's it. That's his position. People moan about him. You know, we're obsessed in this country sometimes of what people can't do. I'll tell you something. If you give that boy the ball in that number 10 position, and yes, he did it against us first game of the season. People say, it's only Livingston. He came on and changed the game for Rangers. You know, him playing in there, Lawrence going slightly wider. He's a number 10. It's for me, it's pointless playing him wide. And obviously, Gio sees something because he sees him every day that he thinks he can do it. But I think he does struggle in the big games. If you're not dominating possession, he's not the player that you need because he's not going to track back. He's not going to make these tackles. But if you do have the ball, I think he'll open up defences. That's his job.
Is that? Can you understand why the Rangers fans would struggle to swallow that, though, Stephen? You know, they feel like they've got high standards and they can't carry those passengers that can only play at times when you're dominating the ball.
Well, I think it's a bit harsh to point. I mean, if you look at the header against USG, which he scored at the back post, wasn't it? He then ransacked the defender against PSV for that goal for Antonio Colak. So, he has made a contribution, and he looked a very good player.
Decent enough save, Joe Hart, that one with his feet.
He looked a very good player to begin with. Listen, I think everyone accepts he looked like a boy lost last night. The one point I would make, and it's a point Rangers fans keep coming back to, is a failure to sign a proven right-sided midfielder attacker. Tillman is playing in the right side. That's just, as Marvin said, that's not his position. That's not what he does. You're throwing him in at the very top level against world-class players in a position he's not particularly comfortable with. I would be reluctant to throw him under a bus for that.
Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't the only one though, Ian. Then it's not all Malik Tillman's fault, is it?
Can I come back on that then? As the panel said, if Gio's seen him every day and that's not his position, so Gio got the tactics wrong last night then?
For me, in terms of Tillman playing right midfield, no matter who it's against, I don't agree with that. And as I said, it's easy to sit here as a pundit and say these things because the manager might see something different. He might have seen a weakness in Liverpool's left-hand side that he thought Tillman could exploit. But for me, he's not a right midfielder, he's an attacking midfielder. And that's why I think he does struggle in the big games when he's played out there.
Is that fair? Why is the manager putting him in these big games or putting him in that position? I think he was asked about it. He defended it to a point, saying that he played there against PSV, I think.
Well, we assumed Rabbi Matondo was going to come in and play there, and he did against Hearts, and he did okay. He had an assist for Colak's second goal, showed signs of brightness. He then came on last night on the left side for Ryan Kent and almost scored a brilliant goal. So, I think we have to accept it's going to take time for players, new signings. They settle at different rates or they need more. Some need more time than others. If Matondo's showing signs of life, give him game time, give him a chance, put him out there again, and don't expose Malik Tillman to a position which, on the face of it, he doesn't look particularly comfortable with.
You hear a lot of people, though, Ian, saying there's not much you can do, Liverpool are just much better and these things happen. You're not buying that, though, by the sounds of it.
I understand that, but my second point, if you watch the game last night, when Liverpool were attacking, Rangers midfield their defence, when they run towards a Liverpool player to shut him down, they stopped about 2 or 3 metres. They never got near him. So when the Liverpool player got the ball, he had plenty of time, stop, have a look about. The Rangers players stood and watched them, every one of them. They're 2 or 3, get into their faces. I'm quite sure when Marvin's team Livingston go to Ibrox or Celtic, they didn't stand off them. They go into them. They make it hard for them. Rangers just made it too easy. Yes, Liverpool are the far better team. More money, we understand that. But for God's sake, try a bit and show a bit of heart. I bet you there's thousands of Rangers supporters out there. You could have picked 11 of them apart from McGregor and would have played better than half of them last night. The professional football players, show a bit of pride. Kent doesn't want to be there. He's not interested.
Yeah, we had a couple of complaints about Ryan Kent last night, Marvin, a couple along the lines of, wasn't ambitious enough when he got the ball. I mean, why not even just try and beat someone, try and run at people, don't be tentative. I think another one was was it in the lead up to the penalty where he lost it and sort of jogged back, or was another one I think when Salah kind of robbed him on the halfway line and he jogged back. I don't know, are those fair?
I think when you use the word, try and do this or try and do that, sometimes, wingers and attacking players, they're such confidence players, so if he's, not playing to his full potential, he's going up against Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's got a massive point to prove, by the way, he's trying to get in the World Cup squad. People always moan about him defensively and how poor he is. If you look at the stats, he's not actually that poor as a defender. So it could be that. Listen, I get what Ian's saying, try get close to them, try and get in their faces. And I said it earlier on to a caller, I've played against Rangers and Celtic before, and you try and do that and you come out of position, they punish you. Liverpool have done the same to Rangers yesterday, so I don't think it's down to a lack of commitment, a lack of trying, a lack of working hard. They were the tactics to sit off the game. They got into a certain area, then press. I think if you go and press in ones and twos against top teams in the Champions League, you're going to get punished.
Again, Stephen, this goes back, whether it's the individuals or the team, this is because Rangers fans, rightly or wrongly, feel it's part of a pattern. See if Ryan Kent had been ripping up all season, scoring for fun, assisting for fun, ripping teams apart, and then had an off night at Anfield, we wouldn't get the same complaints about it. But people feel on these phone lines that this is sort of typifying him at the moment.
Well, what is it? Is Ian, the third Rangers fan tonight, has made a very similar point. So there's clearly a body of thought out there that it's a consensus that for whatever reason, Rangers did not show up last night. But the worrying thing for the Rangers board, I think, is it will draw more attention on the squad management. There's already a bit of discontent that they didn't spend on quality players before the window closed. You've got the question, as you quite rightly say, about Kent, about Morelos, about the players going out of contract. Rightly or wrongly, there's going to be heat at the forthcoming Rangers AGM over the way Rangers have handled this season, because the Champions League has exposed some weaknesses.
Thank you very much, Ian. It was nice to hear from you. So a big game last night, a big game ongoing at the moment.
Super Scoreboard European football coverage with MoyerandSweeney.com. The top team for your defence.
We're enjoying bringing you the big games. We were on until 11 o'clock last night for that game at Anfield. And thanks to Moyer and Sweeney Litigation, who are our sponsors of European football coverage this season, they're giving you the chance to win a 60-inch Samsung 4K Ultra HD TV. And you can go to Clyde1.com to enter for the chance to win. While you're there, you can find out more about Moyer and Sweeney, offering high quality representation for everyone throughout Scotland. Whether it's minor or serious matters, they have got you covered. So thanks again. We are back again with an extended show Tuesday and Wednesday until 11 o'clock next week. That's going to be good fun. And all thanks to Moyer and Sweeney Litigation. Still Leipzig 2, Celtic 1. We'll reach the conclusion of that game next.
RB Leipzig versus Celtic. The Old Firm in Europe's big league. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
RB Leipzig 3, Celtic 1. It looks like the game is beyond Celtic, and you have to say, Marvin Bartley, it was stunning from the home side. They have ripped Celtic apart.
Yeah, what a fantastic goal that is. Really is. The right back goes powering down the right hand side. Jota tries to track him. A fantastic diagonal's hit to him. And then Silva's in the middle. Takes a fantastic touch, by the way, because I thought he was going to try and hit it first time, but the composure he shows, puts it in the back of the net. And now the worry is for Celtic. What do you do? Do you try and sit in and kind of leave it at 3-1? They carry on pressing. They seem to be carrying on pressing at the moment, but if this goes to 4-1, 5-1, they haven't deserved that, really. As again we said in the first half, Celtic should have probably scored more chances, but you don't want to get beat 4 or 5-1. That's not great going into the game against Leipzig next week.
Clinical doesn't even cover that, Stephen. It's a long diagonal, as Marvin says. The overlapping right back then hits the cross first time on the volley straight into the path of Silva, who takes a brilliant touch and quickly flicks it beyond Joe Hart. That is a top goal at this level.
There is no blaming Joe Hart for that one. That was a brilliant goal, and it's going to be a really long last 10 minutes for Celtic now. As Marvin said, they are running over the top of Celtic, who look pretty gassed, for want of a better word.
Because they've made a couple of changes. James Forrest and Sead Haksabanovic have come on. Daisen Maeda and Matt O'Reilly went off.
I know RB Leipzig are bringing on fresh legs, which is probably the last thing Celtic want to see right now. But listen, ultimately I suspect Leipzig would have won anyway, but you go back to that Joe Hart era, which came at a really awful time, and ultimately RB Leipzig have been a far better team.
Yeah, but both things can be true, Marvin. Leipzig have deserved to be ahead in this game. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Sometimes then, if you're going to try and get something from a game where you are not the better team, you need to get the big moments right. And Joe Hart got the big moment wrong, and it really put Celtic on the back foot and set this on its way.
No, exactly. And you mentioned earlier, the Celtic fans was just celebrating the VAR, the disallowed goal, and then all of a sudden the ball's at Joe Hart's feet under no pressure at all. tries to play it out, and then the next minute it's in the back of your net. Experienced player, that shouldn't be happening. But we always speak, I said earlier on the show, and I'm in danger of repeating myself, about being ruthless in that final third. That is the difference. Defenders can defend, midfield players can get on the ball, but the attackers at this level, they will punish you. And Leipzig missed a few chances themselves, by the way, in the first half, and that should have been a massive, massive warning. 2 VAR goals kind of disallowed, and then Joe Hart hands them one, and then that third goal is world class.
This now is becoming the kind of away performance in the Champions League under Ange Postecoglou that probably people feared before the campaign started. I think
James McCarthy's coming on.
I think they confounded people with the way they played Shakhtar Donetsk. They did reasonably well for 57 minutes against Real Madrid. This is a bit more like a reality check, this one. And the worrying thing, if we go back to it, Callum McGregor off of a knee injury. They're losing players, they're dropping like flies, and they really need to get Cameron Carter-Vickers and Carl Starfelt back in at ASAP.
Yeah, you're not even dealing with the elite of the competition in RB Leipzig, no offence to them, and yet, Andre Silva's got 51 Portugal caps. It's like that's the sort of
Giacomakis on now.
The table you're dining at. Kyogo's gone off, set up Jota's goal to draw Celtic level early in the second half. Giacomakis replacing Kyogo, James McCarthy replacing...
I'm not sure
he missed it there.
One thing about Maeda coming off,
Rio Hatate, who was absolutely shattered, obviously.
We mentioned Maeda coming off, and he looked shattered. Like Stephen just said there. And you don't often see that. I don't think I've ever seen that actually. Looks extremely tight. So I wonder if he's got an injury, or he was just, they put that much effort into this game for the first 60-65 minutes that he just fatigued. But that'd be another worry for Celtic, with obviously he's at St Johnstone away coming up for them at the weekend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's 3-1 and RB Leipzig had 2 very tight VAR calls for goals off, so it could have been messy. It still could be. I think Celtic just have to steady the ship, get through this, lick their wounds, take what they've got and get out of town.
Yeah, Celtic are still giving it a go. They're attacking. Jota was looking to create something and slips one down the line again in the second phase for Greg Taylor, and I think it's going to be a Celtic corner. So he's still giving it a go. 83 gone, RB Leipzig 3, Celtic 1. Which is all very well and good, and Anfield and so on, but the big result of the week was obviously in Dingwall last night, and Hugh is a Motherwell fan on the line. Did you see that one coming, Hugh?
100%. I says to a couple of guys obviously leading up to the last few weeks, we were due to hammer somebody, because the chances we created, it should have actually happened against Hearts, if I'm being honest. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net against Hearts. We were by far the better team with them. We created, I think, a lot more than Hearts. And if it wasn't for Craig Gordon and a few saving tackles, the crossbar for Penny, we would have absolutely destroyed. We'd have took 4 or 5 off the Hearts that day, but it wasn't to be. You have seen it coming, and what a difference in a football team. It's so refreshing to see there how the players have sort of been given free rein to go and express themselves. I mean, Joe Efford is a perfect example. I think he was held back a lot. Well, the full team was held back under Graham Alexander, and his tactics were shocking. And you can see the fans obviously leaving stadiums and not even interested in even going to the games. Now we're getting a lot more crowd in. You're getting a lot more behind the team now, just because of the effort they're putting in. I mean, how could a team get beaten 3-0 at home against Hearts and get applauded off the park? That just says it all for how Hamill and Brian Kerr has set that team up and how positive it is. So refreshing to see. The major thing is, get Matt Penny on a contract and don't let him leave in January, because what a left back here. The Ipswich left back must be phenomenal if he's Keane Howe out of the team.
Yeah, just quickly, a mini good spell for Celtic there. A lovely reverse pass from James McCarthy. Greg Taylor was in the box, couldn't quite find the shot, went out for a corner. The corner came in, kept the pressure on a bit, but then Haksabanovic couldn't beat his man, and it was out for a goal kick. It was a slightly loaded question to Hugh. Could you see it coming? Because it looks like a surprise result, but he is actually right. How the Dundee United game stayed 0-0, no one really knows, and I keep referencing it because it shows you that it's not just my bias. As soon as the Hearts game finished, Andy Halliday texted to say, I have no idea how that finished 3-0. So Motherwell had been creating chances. When you're doing that, Marvin, can it feel like it's a matter of time before it clicks in front of goal?
Most definitely, and like Hugh said there, the team are capped off after losing 3-0. But if you see effort, if you see a performance, if you see what the players are trying to do, and it's just not your day, fans will take that all day long. It's when you go out there and you don't agree with the tactics, maybe, you know, you don't think the players are performing to the level that they can. That's when the problems start. But, you know, Hamill's got a feel-good factor back at Motherwell now. You know, it's fantastic to see a young coach going into kind of his first job. Absolutely brilliant. And as Hugh said, he's kind of turning it around for them. You know, to go up to Dingwall and win 5-0, you know, that's not easy no matter who you are. It's a tough place to go. I know Ross County haven't started well this season. I totally get that, but it doesn't matter. That's a tough place to go. And to go there and win that game 5-0, that shows the direction that Motherwell are travelling in.
Yeah, Stephen, I heard that all the press box at Anfield last night were all watching the game in Dingwall on phones and tablets and stuff, trying to keep across it. But when you did see the result, what did you make of it?
Stunned, to be honest. Really surprised. Almost as surprising as Napoli winning 6-1 in Amsterdam, but maybe not quite. When was the last time Motherwell won 5-0 away from home in the Premier League?
Hugh, do you know? Because I don't.
It happened, I think it was 2015.
That's impressive, Hugh. That is impressive. But
who was that against?
I can't. Is it St Johnstone?
You're just making this up, Hugh. Let's be honest. I'll get producer Callum on the case.
That's very impressive. No, listen, I mean, I was impressed with the way Motherwell went about their business even at Celtic Park. You know, I mean, they had Celtic on the ropes and a bit nervous at the end. And it's great to see Stephen Hamill, because, you know, it's an obvious gamble giving Stephen Hamill the job. He's untried as a first team manager, and you're concerned about how that's going to pad out. It's, at the minute, he's beginning to look as he's really turning things around. Fair play to him.
Yeah, is it onwards and upwards, Hugh? It's a bit early, isn't it, to look at that league table? But I mean, you've leapfrogged Livingston, for instance, which is nice to see. You know, Ross County, Kilmarnock, Dundee United. There's a bit of a gap with those three down at the bottom. Are you looking upwards and maybe thinking about top six?
Oh, we always look to stay in the league. That's everybody's remit. It'll be same with Marvin as well. Livy will want to just stay in the league. That's your first remit. Anything else you want, if you can get a cup run, take your cup run. If you get top six, brilliant. I just love how we're playing at the minute. I'm so positive going to games. If you get beat, you're not. Yeah, you can make this happen, but it's not as bad as what it was the last 18 months or so. And you're always positive getting into a game. Especially last night, I was positive getting up there and hoping for the result. Then you see it 1-0 at half time, weren't playing that good. Second half, I just think we blew them apart. I'm speaking to a few guys, you've probably seen on Twitter as well, that were obviously happy that Joe Hart's all right after his concussion at the weekend, to make sure, because obviously his concussions obviously helped him give Leipzig that pass. So it's good to see that he's okay after his concussion.
Yeah. He's not having a classic evening in Leipzig, shall we say.
That's a touchy subject in here, concussion as well.
That's true, you've had your head knocked. We've managed to make it about 5 minutes into this conversation without talking about Kevin Van Veen. A hat-trick last night, the second top scorer joint in the Premiership, one behind Cholak. He's up there with guys who have, been really getting the headlines, like Miovski and Kyogo. I think that takes him up to 7 in the league last night.
What a player he is, by the way. What a focal point he is, whether he's scoring goals or he's bringing other players into play. His first touch at times, and he works hard, by the way. You can't take away from him. He does work hard, and I think Tony Watt's missing that. Look at Tony Watt's record since kind of leaving Motherwell and having Van Veen next to him. And yes, Tony was getting the goals, but Van Veen was doing so much for him. And listen, if Motherwell can keep him fit, the top 6 finish should be well within their reach.
It's taken another save from Joe Hart. Celtic getting a bit of a run around here. 89 minutes gone. We'll go to Leipzig and get the full-time story after these. Thank you to Hugh and Lanark.
RB Leipzig versus Celtic. The Old Firm in Europe's big league. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Still not done yet. Well, it's done in the sense that Celtic will not get anything out of this game, but the full-time whistle hasn't gone. 5 minutes added, one of them still remaining. It's RB Leipzig 3, Celtic 1. Celtic fans, you've still got about 15 minutes to get your post-match thoughts in, so please do. 0141951 at 1025. Where's this gone wrong tonight? Get in touch and let us know. There's a chance it's for Celtic at the end, which might just sum it up. Jota and Greg Taylor doing well, flashed across to the edge of the box, and someone, was it James Forrest, with a big fresh air swipe.
It's been a second half since Jota equalised, which promised so much, but then has been watched through the cracks of the fingers. I think this has been a reality check for Celtic. It's been to coin a phrase, a chasing.
Absolutely. And Leipzig aren't done yet either. They really want to make a statement there, coming forward again.
Very impressive.
The Celtic have still tried to go forward as well. They've tried to make it happen, but it's, Stephen says, clearly only one team deserving of winning this game. So Celtic fans, come on, what have you made of it? 01419511025. It is still
hang on. Oh my, that's brilliant.
And it's all over, is it? I think the referee's he's having a look. Gabriel has the full-time picture from Germany.
Yeah, full time here at the Red Bull Arena, and it is 3-1 to RB Leipzig. A thrilling encounter. Leipzig's class showed in the end. 2 goals from Andre Silva cancelled out Jota's second half equaliser after Christopher Nkunku's first half opener. Early on, there were half chances at both ends. It was an end-to-end start as we expected. In the 18th minute, the hosts thought they were in front. Nkunku was slipped through, a lovely dink finish over Joe Hart, but he was shown to be marginally offside. That woke Celtic up, and they had a brilliant 10-minute spell, rattling Leipzig. They had 3 huge chances. A header from Kyogo that forced a good save from substitute goalkeeper. A short corner gave Greg Taylor a chance. He curled it into the keeper's midriff, and then a stray pass gave Kyogo another excellent opportunity. His shot was deflected just wide, and then from the resulting corner, Celtic's trouble started. A short corner was cut back to Callum Gregory, took a heavy touch. Leipzig were on him like a flash and countered. The ball ended up in the back of the net. This time it was Nkunku who would get his goal. McGregor then had to come off with a knock. Oliver Albergaard coming on, and that was and will be a big blow going forward for the Hoops. 1-0 at the interval, but it was the perfect restart for the visitors. 2 minutes after half time, there was a cheap turnover of possession. Reo Hatate rolled the ball through to Kyogo, who took his time. He didn't even need to look up. He knew where Jota was on the left wing. He passed it to him, and Jota coolly slotted the ball back across the goalie. 1-1. Game on. Dominic Jean-Jablay then hit the post after a fantastic 1-2 with Nkunku. It would have been a magical goal. And then started a crazy turn of events just after the hour mark. Jean-Jablay curled in a brilliant 20-yard strike to give the hosts the lead. However, Andre Silva was judged to have been blocking Joe Hart's view. The goal was ruled out by VAR. Celtic in the away end celebrated like they scored a goal. Suddenly the ball was back at Joe Hart just after the restart, and he had a terrible attempt to play out. He passed the ball straight to Zolobzai, who fed Andre Silva, and he stuck it in the back of the net. In the 76th minute, the game was over. Nkunku, who was outstanding all night, put a brilliant crossfield pass over Taylor's head to Simikan, who put a first-time volley across to Silva, showed his composure, a touch and finished. 3-1 there. Celtic certainly could have scored more, but the final result was a fair one. They sit bottom of the group on just 1 point after 3 games. Full time here in Germany. RB Leipzig 3, Celtic 1.
Andy's a Celtic fan on the line to give us that quick reaction. Andy, how tough was that to watch?
Well, I didn't really see it, guys. I've been listening to the radio like working tonight, but obviously it's hard to take. But I mean, see, these teams, what I'm saying to your producer there, right? Although it's great to get to the Champions League, get the money for the club, get the big draw, the Real Madrids and all the rest of it, the big nights. When it comes to it, I actually do believe that our level probably will be, I think, out of the group, Europa League. It's good to compete and all the rest of it, but this competition, I just think, is too much for us. Although the game was poised at 1 each tonight, we missed a few chances, albeit they've had a goal chopped off. All that aside, I still keep coming back to it. I think the Europa League's probably our level.
I always hear this though, Stephen, and as true as it may be, you could face an RB Leipzig in the Europa League. Maybe it takes you to the latter stages, as Rangers found out and were successful last season. They finished 4th in the Bundesliga last season. They're 11th currently. They are a very good team because in terms of what we've just watched, just with your eyes, forget where they are, you've just watched a good team. But you're still not dealing with the absolute cream of Europe. They're not one of Europe's elite. So this notion that it's just because it's the Champions League and we're no more comfortable in the Europa League. Celtic should still surely have ambitions of doing better tonight.
Well, yeah, the Europa League wasn't especially comfortable when Bodo Glimt came to town last year. Let's not forget that. But I take Andy's point. I've made the same point myself. I think Celtic and Rangers are Europa League teams. The Champions League's proving a tough old finish in school. You look at the stats: Celtic 2 defeats, 1 draw, 7 goals against, 2 for. Rangers 3 defeats, no goals, 9 against. Last night it was Malik Tillman and Ryan Kent getting it in the neck. Now you'll have Joe Hart, questions over him, whether he should stay in the team. It was 3 goals going on 7 tonight, Andy, which might actually back up your point. But the one thing I would ask you, in front of a full Celtic Park, at home, do you do like Celtic winning the return game next week?
Oh, I definitely fancy Celtic next week.
Well, there you are. But that kind of contradicts the point that, the point you're trying to make. I mean, they're not out of it yet. They've still got 1 point. Win that game next week. They're back in 4 points. The battle for second, even third, is right in the mixing pot.
If Celtic play anything like that and RB Leipzig play anything like that, it'll be pretty tough, Marvin, next week, whether it's at Celtic Park or not.
Most definitely. But I still think I agree with Stephen. I think, listen, Celtic win their 2 remaining home games. I think at worst they can be third place in the league. I really do think they can get second if they win both of those. Obviously need a bit of luck with the other 2 draw when they play.
Maybe we could, just because we're short on time, keep that for sort of looking forward in terms of tonight. Well beaten. Is this the night that it does? The assessment of Celtic's group changes a bit, because you can only do it game by game. And in the first game, that's a good performance, that 3-0, and then even the second game, you take a point away from home and definitely should have won it. But now, as Stephen says, it's now 1 point from 3 games and a lot of goals conceded. It is in no way a good start to the group.
Totally agree. It's not a great start at all, by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm still going into that final third and saying, if you're more clinical, these things change. Because listen, when it's 1-1 or whatever else, and Leipzig are going forward, and Celtic can't take in their chances, it puts massive pressure on the Celtic defenders. Joe Hart's mistake shouldn't happen. I don't think it will happen again. But again, Andrew, we saying to them, we have to be more ruthless. This is the elite. We're down at the top table now. If we can take our chances, it takes so much pressure off us in the game. It changes the dynamics of the game. You don't score and teams start to think, well, hang on a minute, they're getting chances but they're not scoring. If we can get 1 here, they're in massive trouble. We get 2, they're totally blown away.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly have been true of the Shakhtar game, but I mean, Leipzig had so many chances tonight, didn't they?
Yeah, no, they had chances too. And that's the thing. Defensively, you're thinking we are giving up chances, but I still say, if you don't score goals in the Champions League, in any competition, you're not going to go through. You're not going to win games of football.
Well, ultimately, for Celtic now, the big question is the medical list. Is Cameron Carter-Vickers going to be back? When is Carl Starfelt going to be back? That sounds like a couple of weeks. Callum McGregor would be a massive loss. These are big key players for them, and it doesn't just raise questions in terms of the Champions League. It raises questions for going to St Johnstone on Saturday for 12:30 kickoff, when they're trying to keep in front of Rangers, who are just 2 points behind.
And a really bad mistake from Joe Hart tonight. He was certainly part of a mistake at the weekend. People can argue back and forward whether it's Juranovic's fault or Joe Hart's fault. Have you got any concerns about the goalkeeper at this point in time, or is it just a blip?
Well, I know before he came up here he was kind of known for the odd mistake, but by and large, I mean, he's some goalkeeper really, so no, I would stick by him.
Yeah, he's done well for Celtic since he came, Stephen.
It's a really difficult decision, because he's a big figure in the dressing room. He's a big influential senior player. I'd kind of throw this over to Marvin, actually. I mean, if you're in a dressing room with a guy like that, it's a really difficult decision, is it not?
Yeah, but I think if you do want to take him out, I'm not saying that Ange does want to take him out or whatever else. I imagine he'll come out and back as goalkeeper, and rightly so, because Andy said he's been class this season. But if you pull him in and say, listen, I'm going to take you out for the next game, you're going to go back in for the following Champions League game, I think sometimes players appreciate that rest. Mentally and physically. Listen, when he plays domestic, he has to be concentrated because he gets 1 or 2 shots against him. Tonight was a tough night for him, and he's given away a goal. So I think you can take him out of the team. You have the chat with him. You put Siegrist in, and you say, listen, Siegrist, he's coming back in for the Champions League game. Still my number 1. He's just having a rest.
Callum McGregor went off injured, Andy, first half. How worrying is that?
It's very worrying. He doesn't miss a game, really, does he? He plays every minute, but hopefully he recovers and see him soon.
I don't know if did that have a direct bearing on the game, because Leipzig were creating chances with McGregor on the pitch. He actually gave the first goal away in a sense. Celtic still managed to create once he went off. That, was this about more than the absence of Callum McGregor, I'd imagine?
Oh, definitely about more, but that didn't help. It does have a bearing on it, because he's your captain, he's your leader. He's someone who takes the ball in any situation. He puts in a huge shift for the football club, and when he goes off, Celtic are a weaker team. There's no doubt about that. But as you said, at times Leipzig was still cutting Celtic apart with him on the pitch. But I have to say, I don't think it made it any better, him going off. And hopefully, it's not a long-term injury, because, as I said, he's massive for Celtic. Yes, he was missing at the weekend no matter what, but they can't afford for him to be out for 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We're not going to hear, I don't think, in time from Ange Postecoglou unless it's the quickest press conference of all time, Stephen.
I've known managers to want to get out of town quite quickly after these results, so I wouldn't rule it out.
You could easily see the positives from the first two games. People can then argue how many there were, fine, but there were obviously positives. I wonder if he won't be quite as optimistic tonight.
You can't be after that performance and result. He always says it's about performance. He always says if you get the performance right, and fair play, Joe Hart is now standing up doing an interview after that, so fair play to him for coming out and facing the music. But he always says it's about performance, and if you get the performance and result forward, the performance was decent in the first half. They created chances, got an equaliser, but you have to say, for the vast majority of the second half, they were being hounded and they were completely outplayed. As I say, there were 3 goals, 2 VAR decisions which went in their favour, and RB Leipzig hit the post. RB Leipzig are a better team than I thought they were. I'll give them that. But I think if the Celtic fans will cling to the fact you look at the group, win next week at home, and you're right back in it. That's the only thing they can cling to tonight.
Yeah, tough night. Celtic fans, you can reflect more on it tomorrow. We'll hear from Ange Postecoglou. Rangers fans, you'll have even longer to get over the Liverpool game last night. It finished RB Leipzig 3, Celtic 1. We've got Kilmarnock St Johnstone getting underway tonight as well, and Hearts play Fiorentina tomorrow, so lots to get through. If you just can't get enough of Scottish football, make sure you check out the Big Scottish Football podcast with Col Robert. It's our pal Stephen Millen, Ewan Cameron, bringing you an SPFL review every Monday. This is the bit that Marvin likes. Special guests like Ailey Barber, even our own Mark Wilson. Hugh Keevan's on this week, in top form by all accounts, so available on all your usual podcast platforms. It's the Big Scottish Football podcast, brought to you by Col Robert. We are back tomorrow with Mark Wilson and Gordon DL, and in the meantime, stay right there. Callum Gallagher is up next.
Clyde One's Super Scoreboard podcast with Taggart's Jaguar, part of the Lookers family. Search online, order and choose home delivery or collection with Click and Drive.